Good morning. Thanks, Lacey. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us this morning for the latest installment in the Virtual Access series from the Downtown Seattle Association. My name's Feliks Banel. Today, we are focused on reclaiming downtown's core, which is, of course, a worthwhile pursuit and something we can all get behind. We have a terrific panel, and I'll introduce each of them in just a moment. We're just weeks away from the holiday season, and Thanksgiving is late this year, November 28th, the latest date upon which this fourth Thursday holiday can legally occur, which means fewer days of traditional retail shopping. And in case you haven't noticed, an election campaign is underway, sucking up all the time and attention of the media, all the bandwidth of the audiences and the voters who seem to be showing signs of fatigue. Meanwhile, the polls show a statistical dead heat in the most critical question facing Americans in a generation, which is the most popular Halloween candy. Is it M&Ms or Reese's peanut butter cups? Now, in just a few more weeks, all those big electoral questions will be settled, let's hope. But meanwhile, all of us gathered here today know that the work of downtown vitality, it's not on a 4-year cycle or only something that happens in time for holiday shopping. This work is year-round. It's a daily effort to address the challenges that come up and be ready for the joys and excitement too in the city that all of us love so dearly. And with this in mind, let's introduce our panelists for today's conversation. Jennifer Casillas is Vice President of Public Realm and Ambassador Operations for the Downtown Seattle Association. In this role, she oversees the operations for the Metropolitan Improvement District, or the MID, which is managed by DSA. It includes the 165 ambassadors on the Clean Team, Community Safety and Hospitality Team, and Public Realm Operations Team. Jen and her team are responsible for managing and activating 5 downtown parks and public spaces. Sabrina Villanueva is Senior Director of Property Management for Kleist Properties. She's been with DSA member Kleist Properties for 18 years. In her current role, Sabrina manages several commercial properties in downtown Seattle, Bellevue, and the Denny Regrade area. In 2019, she co-chaired a DSA commissioned 3rd Avenue task force that developed the 3rd Avenue vision. Sabrina is also the chair of the Metropolitan Improvement District Ratepayer Advisory Board. Natalie Walton-Anderson is Director of Public Safety for Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell. Natalie joined the mayor's office in June 2024. She's an experienced public safety leader who has worked to address complex safety issues for nearly 30 years. As a former assistant U.S. attorney for the Western District of Washington Criminal Division, a senior deputy prosecuting attorney for the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office Criminal Division, and as criminal division chief for the Seattle City Attorney's Office, she's a champion for keeping people safe. Now, we do have some questions we prepared in advance, as we always do, and we'll get to audience questions as often as we can throughout the program. As Lacey mentioned, we want to encourage people to use the chat function. Pose your questions or observations or comments at any time during the conversation. We keep an eye on those, and we'll bring forward the ones that we can to fit into the conversation. Now, before we begin the virtual access conversations, it's become a beloved Seattle tradition to always start with a few data points. Okay, so for September 2024, that's last month, total foot traffic downtown, which includes visitors, workers, and residents, was up 5% year over year. Observed drug activity by DSA MID ambassadors in the geography we're going to discuss today, which we'll be calling the DAT zone for Downtown Activation Team, that has dropped by 41% since June of this year. Graffiti removed by the DSA MID Clean Team in this area has plummeted from 994 in August to just 170 in September. And Seattle Police Department data indicates a 25% drop in violent crime in the program area from September 9th to October 13th. All right, so big focus of this is this Downtown Activation Team, the DAT, that Mayor Harrell created over the last few months. We want to talk about the origins of it, how we got to where we are, sort of the context and history. So Jen Casillas from DSA, let's have you start us off on kind of giving us a primer on the Downtown Activation Team, or DAT.
Yeah, certainly. Thanks, Felix. And those stats are great. I like setting it up with those. Let me share this screen here and share a map. Hopefully y'all can see that. Want to start with a little bit like Felix said of the origin story of this work and how we got to this DAT zone. Let's see, we kind of have to rewind a little bit to the end of summer when we collectively, DSA, my colleagues and partners noticed that, downtown had kind of deteriorated during the summer in key areas, that Third Pike and Pine area. Hearing from stakeholders that this was just constantly a challenging space, it wasn't improving. we pulled some people together, pulled stakeholders, pulled the city, and said, hey, we got to do something different. We have to deliver a different experience. We keep hearing the same thing. Whatever we are doing is not working. What actions can be taken? And so that pink circle right there is what we called the pilot area, Third Pike and Pine. We went in, when I say we, collectively with multiple city agencies, private public partners, went into really a concerted effort in that zone to have police presence, to enforce the law, to clean consistently and constantly, to have SDOT there partnering with us, to have park rangers, and have private entities as well join in and help with their facades and street level retail and just challenges there. So that's where we started. It was a pilot group. A pilot project started at the beginning of September. It was supposed to last 2 weeks. It's still going because it's working, and we've claimed this space in some ways, and we don't want to leave it. So there was that pilot group. The green block you see over there is the Spark block, and kind of on a parallel track. This was informed by ULI project, and hopefully you've all seen the Spark block, which Sabrina will talk about in detail later, is the block between Stewart and Virginia. And there's lights, there's art. It was a collective effort to bring vibrancy to that block, which was a little stale and a little vacant. And so that Spark block named that for a reason. It's to spark interest and to spark collective action to move down Third Avenue. So both of these efforts were kind of working on a parallel track, that green and that pink area, which was working. And so then enter the mayor's office and other city agencies and the mayor's budget speech and the DAT, the Downtown Activation Team. And the blue area is just part of, we've zoomed in here on part of the areas in the core of downtown, is part of the DAT zone, where similar efforts, interventions, interruptions, and positive impact will really be put forth in this blue zone, again, with collaborative efforts, alignment on a shared vision and a shared goal to create a different experience for people coming downtown.
So the work that you guys are doing in early September to identify a different approach, does that then lead directly to the downtown activation team, or was there a parallel track? Or maybe Natalie, explain how this connects into the downtown activation team.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Jennifer. Really appreciate that intro. As Jennifer said, the mayor's goal and vision, working with our public-private partnerships with our community providers, but realistically, really coordinating our city departments. The goal of the mayor is to restore and improve the safety of our city and make it welcoming for all. And obviously, our downtown area is our economic core. And that's one of the reasons why we started this pilot. Even before September, we've heard from many of our downtown stakeholders, other parts of the city as well, that the city needs to really work more toward a coordinated effort to this. And I think it all kind of came together. And I think this is why the partnership that we have with DSA is key. Our lead partner agency in this, Seattle Police Department, has been key, as has SDOT, Seattle Public Utilities, and other departments have come to the table to say, what can we do? Ultimately, public safety and ensuring and restoring the visual disorder that has been in that area that Jennifer mentioned is all of our responsibilities. And that's what the mayor has championed and challenged to all of us. And that's what we're working on. So it was a parallel track, but I really have to, really point to DSA and the partnership there with MIN, the ambassadors, Seattle Police Department as well, to really help us coordinate and launch this pilot. And the goal of this pilot is to make sure that we can sustain this effort, that it is sustainable and is scalable, because we know there are other areas of Seattle that need this work, such as Little Saigon, and continuing the work to revitalize the CID as well. So we know if we can do it here in this area and sustain that effort with all of the partnerships, then we can do it anywhere. But that's why this is still a pilot. While we're still looking at this, there are several things that we still need to bring into this work. And I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit more about that later, but I hope that answers your question.
Well, let's talk about those now. What are those things? Because I imagine there might be people in the audience who might be skeptical about, they've heard different plans before, different acronyms, different things.
Yes.
What's different this time here in October 2024 that's going to make a real difference that people will notice, not in the short term, but in the long term?
Well, I think the first thing is the fact that we are bringing in departments that haven't typically been involved in the traditional public safety, problem solving and solutions. And I think what also is different is, and key is the partnership that we have, that DSA has modeled for us in terms of working with the city. I think there's probably many pieces that are still missing to the sustainability of this, but the two key ones that I would focus on right now is integrating the services and activations. Like we need to be able to hold the space, and we've done some amazing things in terms of cleaning up the visual disorder that is there. But then the next piece of that is making sure that we're integrating our services. We do expect some displacement here, but we don't want to displace the issues and problems that we have in that area to other parts of the city. So really integrating the community service investments that the city of Seattle already makes is key to this, and also the activation. So departments like the Office of Economic Development is one of our key partners in brainstorming and working with our private partnerships to ensure that. So I would just identify those as two missing pieces that we're starting to work on right now.
Okay, I want to come back to that too and talk a little bit more about the structure and about where the funding comes from and how this might impact other parts of the city operations. But this Third Avenue, the vision plan from 5 years ago from the Urban Land Institute work that they did with DSA, the Spark Block, which if you haven't seen the Spark Block in person in the dark, it's really cool. It smells different. It's clean. It reminds me a little bit of, in a tiny way, I don't want to oversell it, of like Oxford Circus in London, where the lights are hanging between the buildings and the streets, and it just gives you the sense of, and I feel like I'm being corny and blowing smoke here, but it really gives you a sense of possibilities in a way that other blocks in the city don't really feel that way to me, that need something. So the origins of the Spark Block go back to this 2019 plan, which Sabrina Villanueva, you were closely involved with.
Yeah, thanks, Felix. I co-chaired it with Kathy O'Kelly from Hines and worked with 80 stakeholders all along Third Avenue. It was a year-long vision plan. We worked with retail consultants, with transportation experts, with the local stakeholders, with all the transportation agencies, and to come up with this plan. And it's funny that you said multiple possibilities, because it was the Third Avenue Vision Plan, a road of possibilities. And so we came up with this report, and then unfortunately the pandemic happened and it sort of sat on a shelf. Fast forward to earlier this year, ULI picked it up and dusted it off and said, hey, let's springboard off of the work that's already been done and get the right people around the table, which we did, again, with a core group of stakeholders, Metro, SDOT, the mayor's office, and said, let's do something. The Men's World Cup is coming in 2 years. Third Avenue is Seattle's front door. And how do we want to welcome the world to Seattle? So we sat in a room for 3 days and came up with a plan and a report. And we said, okay, there's a lot to chew on here. So let's just break off one piece and see what we can do. And in comes the Spark Block. So we said, let's take a block that doesn't have any bus stops or light rail stations, a lot of vacant space, a very willing active property owner that can be a block captain and Third Avenue champion for it, and see what we can do. And really, I'm so impressed and grateful that Metro was at the table saying yes. SDOT was at the table saying yes. All of the property owners on that block were at the table saying yes. And the artists on that block. So if you don't know, Bumper Shoot is on one end and Base Camp is on the other. So there's all this art and artists and creativity too that we wanted to leverage. And within 3 months, I remember our team, it was like, okay, we're going to do this by the end of summer. And it happened. And we've got beautiful murals on the buildings. We have lights above Metro cables, which the city, when we reported to the mayor's office, they were like, wait, what? Metro allowed you to put the light above the cables? And it was like, yeah, we worked through the details. And that was the goal. We wanted to figure out the technical stuff and say, okay, how do you do it? And that way it would spark, like Jen said, spark interest for others and, give them a menu and a checklist, a how-to. And not all of the elements will work on every block, but some of them, give them sort of a kit of parts and see what would be beneficial for blocks further down Third Avenue.
Yeah. Now we're getting a couple of questions in the question and answer chat function about displacement, and we will get to that. We'll talk about that in depth. But I want to go to John Hempelman's question. He says, "Kudos to everyone working on the core of downtown. The lighting and art on the Spark Block is terrific. How do we get that going on more blocks on Third Avenue?" So is that part of the vision? Will there be this canopy of lights all down Third Avenue?
I'm proud to say it's already happening. So I've had probably 5 or 6 individual coffee meetings or lunch meetings with other owners that were interested and want to know how to do it. And I've been sending them the information, connecting them with the right people. And it's sort of a parallel, right? So the group that worked together to make the Spark Block happen, we did a lot of things where we asked for forgiveness later. But they're putting things into place, like SDOT's creating a blanket permit now for the lighting. And so that'll take them a couple of months to set up. But once that's set up, it'll make it really easy for other property owners in the, early 2025 to get the lighting installed. And there's legwork that they have to do, and they're already doing it. The lighting company has to come out. You have to assess the property. Is it possible? Do you need a lift or not? Can you, core drill into the building? So do all the property owners agree? So they're doing all the heavy lifting. So it'll make it really easy for the city when they say, here's a package, we're ready to go. Everybody's saying, yes, just fund it and hit the green button. So you will see it. I'm confident we will see more of this very soon. Some blocks will have lighting, some will have murals, and some will have both. Okay. And in terms of the formation and how this all fits together, this plan from 2019, Third Avenue vision, what Jen was talking about in terms of noticing a deterioration on the streets in the summer, Mayor Harrell's plans and stuff is in the works. It seems like there's sort of a rare alignment of the planets, or something happened that's different. Feels different to me, just sort of vibe-wise. I can't quite put my finger on the exact objective criteria, but it seems like something is different this time. And I don't want to oversell this or make this like some big unsustainable thing, but what is different about this effort that feels very coordinated and very cooperative at this point? And that question's for all three of you, really.
I'll jump in, and Felix, you just took the words right out of my mouth.
Okay, on to the next question then. All right, so no, I'm just kidding.
Cooperated, it's very cooperative and coordinated and collaborative. And like Sabrina was saying, people are at the table saying yes for the Spark Block. And that's the same with people are at the table, the right people from the right agencies. And like Natalie said, some not traditionally at the table, and everybody is saying yes, and or just bringing what they do best to the table and saying, I'm all in, and here's what I can contribute. We know SPD can do certain things that nobody else can do. So we're saying, we need you here, and they're very much leading this charge. We need you at the table to do the thing that you're best capable to do. The mid ambassadors can do a lot of great things, and we are at the table cleaning. We are at the table providing hospitality and welfare checks, and we're activating different spaces along the corridor and around the corridor. And so I think that just the sustained effort, the sustained cooperation. And when I say sustained, there's a group of us that meet twice a week. And it takes that every Tuesday and every Thursday. They're quick meetings now, thankfully. They're check-ins. They're like, what's going on? Where is there a challenge? What was a miss? All right, let's correct it. Moving on. Let's go to the next day. So just that sustained cooperation I haven't seen in my time at DSA in this way. So I think that's different. And you're right, it's hard to put your finger on it, but the experience both for the public in the space and the experience I'm having with the partners is different, and in a good way.
I agree 100%. And for the group that I've been working with, and we meet twice a week, one's more operations and one's more comms, but it was realizing and agreeing that Third Avenue is a regional transit spine. It's not a Seattle issue. It is a regional issue. It's a regional asset. But each person, whether it's Sound Transit or Metro or SDOT, they have a different boss to answer to. They have their own budget. They have their own goals. They have their own projects. And so it is the alignment. So I feel like we talked about this in our team at ULI. And Greg Spots with SDOT actually brought it up. It's aligning our goals, and that's what's different now for me, because I've worked on a lot of Third Avenue projects, but getting buy-in ahead of time and alignment of, okay, we have a lot of other things we're doing, but we will align on this particular asset, this issue, and that has made it easier for folks to say yes and to move things forward. But we needed to all get on the same page ahead of time and align that goal.
And in terms of, and Natalie, do you have something to add to that, or?
I would say, yeah, I would echo everything that everybody else has said here in terms of what feels different. Alignment, collaboration. I really love the name of the Spark Walk. I feel sparked or energized by the collaboration that's going on here. I think the other piece in terms of people willing to say yes, I want to take a little bit of a different take on that. We've been said, no, we can't do that. No, we don't have the resources. No, we can't. And I want to approach this with all of the partners that are on this call, but also that we've been working with is what can we do? And I think when we do have a finite amount of resources, we do sometimes a better job of coordinating and figuring out what we can do and making the most of the resources that we have. And that's what feels different. And I think also knowing that we all have to be part of the solution. It's not one person's responsibility. That's what feels different because we know we have to do this. We have to. This is our economic core. We have a beautiful, beautiful city, and we must do this. It's not an option. So.
Yeah. Well, it's an audience question I want to bring forward. It's from Risa Conklin. I work at Freeway Park, which is a downtown park just outside the Mid. We've seen a dramatic increase in drug activity, graffiti, and property damage at Freeway Park over the past month. I know other public spaces just outside of the downtown core are having similar problems. Can you talk about what the next steps could be to address these spillover issues affecting downtown's closest neighbors in First Hill, Belltown, and the Chinatown International District? We would love to leverage your successes. I think that's the best part of that question is how do we take this beyond just the core where you've started? But what do you say to Risa Conklin? Natalie, let's start with you.
Yes. I think first of all, that's our goal. Our goal is not just to focus in one place. Our goal with this pilot is to take some learning lessons, understand what the challenges are so that we can do this better as we start to move on. And we are already starting to plan that effort specifically for Little Saigon. I think the other piece of this is this has to be holistic. We cannot move the problem. We know that initially, whenever you start and do a new program with existing resources, we are going to see some movement, and that's why we have to coordinate. We have to coordinate our existing providers to provide offers of services where appropriate. I think the other piece is having the communication. The fact that there are issues that we're seeing in other parks around the city, and having an open line of communication for those issues to be reported, because ultimately we want this to be sustainable, scalable, but also to be able to move and address those areas while still sustaining the successes we've had there. So for the first time, we have some dedicated public safety resources in terms of treatment, in terms of our investments currently with our community providers, and it's just going to take basically what we've done with this pilot, which is to do a better job of coordinating where those services are provided, that outreach, and at the times that it is really needed. And so that communication from that question is we're building that into this pilot to make sure that we can receive that, because the goal of this is not to bring more challenges to other parts of the city.
I mean, in that, let's address a couple of these other questions related to that displacement factor with this. And I understand you have to start someplace. You can't just say citywide, we're going to do this, snap our fingers and everything's going to happen all at once. That makes perfect sense. And I think talking about it this way in a forum like this helps spread that message and, create the kind of perception you're looking to, that this is just the start. So a couple of specifics here. Are you tracking data in other neighborhoods to see if those displaced because of DAT congregate in other neighborhoods? Where have the street people been relocated to and are now, where are they impacting, I guess? Two sort of related questions. Is there an effort to track, to get data outside the area, and then will that inform steps you'll take moving forward? And what about the people who've been impacted directly by like the Spark Block or Third Avenue stuff?
Absolutely, we're looking at data. We're looking at data from SPD. We have our overdose data as well. We're trying to use our data from some of the audits that the city auditor has done, and also SPD's crime data, to be able to figure out the areas to focus on, the ones that are most impacted. We started this webinar with data, and we're also looking at as we do this pilot, can we see a trend or a change in the data in other neighborhoods? And that's by calls generated, to 911. And so we are carefully looking at that piece to see and balance what are the impacts, because again, the data is a key piece, but also what people are reporting, what they feel, their perceptions are key as well. And we want to take both of those things together to make sure that whatever we are doing does not have negative impacts, especially long term.
And are you seeing any trends yet, or is the data revealing anything that you can share with us today, or is it still TBD?
So far we have looked at the data and we don't see any specific increases in any specific areas. That doesn't mean that there hasn't been some displacement. And I think we need to own that. And then that's, again, where we need to call on our community service providers to say, hey, we need help in this area, but also to find out as we start to move and scale this, to find out what is working and what's not. So if one of the challenges to this is, well, we have some displacement in a specific area, what can we do to target that area so that we're still continuing to have the successes in our third Pike and Pine, but also address that area with some other services. And we do have other services. I think one of the things to think about too, besides the tens of millions of dollars that we invest in our community service providers, we're expanding care. We've already done a new hiring cohort of that. So we're trying to utilize some of our other public safety alternative services that we've just now had to be able to address some of those areas. Our park rangers, our crisis responders, those types of things, I would say other resources that we have that we can coordinate in some of these other areas as we start to scale and move this.
Okay, let's go to a couple more audience questions here about Third Avenue in particular. This is from Rebecca Bear. She's curious how residents have been involved in the conversations on Third Avenue. Maybe for you, Jen or Sabrina?
So I was very happy. One of the residents, when we reported out the ULI plan, we didn't at the very beginning mention neighborhoods in it. And I said, you're absolutely right. Third Avenue is also a neighborhood. And so there's a woman that lives in a building on Third Pike, who is going to be the block captain for that block. She's created a downtown district council and rallied all the residents, at least in that area. I know Bellwether Housing is very active with their residents. There is a important part of our stakeholder group that is residents, and we've been getting their feedback. And that's a block, for example, where they've said, the lights probably won't work for us, but we really want to do the retail level activation and the art and murals. And so having them at the table has been wonderful. And I've actually met with that group a couple times and said, here's what we've done and here's what worked, and kind of passed the baton. And now they're moving forward with improvements on their block as well.
Yeah, just to echo that, similar, and I know the people that Sabrina is mentioning, and DSA is including them in the conversation as well. And each block is different. A different makeup of retail or office or residents, and from an operational perspective, they are there the most. So they live there. We want to make sure that we're taking that into consideration. We also have residents as part of our stakeholder group. Residents are on our different various boards, MID and DSA. So we want to make sure that their voices heard at the table and heard. And they bring forth many, many great ideas that we then help to implement. So definitely a voice at the table.
One logistical question from the audience from Matt Wilprecht. Is the city offering credit or help to add the lights to the buildings on Third Avenue? So who's paying for the lights and the installation?
So on the Spark block, the city paid for the lights. They pulled the permit, they paid for the lights and the installation. And then a couple of the property owners paid to pull electrical conduit and plugs, and we're paying the power bill. And I believe there will be continued funding for this in 2025. And that's why SDOT's working on a blanket permit to make it easy. They'll go out to bid and have a couple different vendors they can use. So through the downtown activation plan, I believe there's more funding for more lights.
Got it. Okay. And part of this sustainability question, part of the, the displacement issue, the other neighborhoods, how it all fits together is kind of an operational level. Because as I gather, there's no new money for this. This is coordination of city services in a different way, in existing resources being used, channeled in a different direction. But there's also the mid is deeply involved in this, and just the operational, the literal street level part of this. Jen, can you talk a little bit about that, about how that works and how that sustains itself and how that fits into Third Avenue and all this downtown activation team stuff moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, as I'm sure we all are aware, Third Avenue is a priority area in terms of cleaning and not maybe priority, but a necessity to be there often, which kind of turns into a priority. It's a busy street, it's a tricky corridor, and presents some challenges, but also those opportunities. So we are there, the Mid Ambassadors, on an operational level, 7 days a week throughout every day. With this pilot project, we redeployed resources to be there at very coordinated certain times in partnership with SPD, in partnership with SDOT, in partnership with park rangers. So no new resources, but just a redeployment and organized and coordinated. So we weren't there, at the same time doing the same work as other agencies, or missing each other and not being able to support each other, so we could complete our core services in a quick, efficient way. We have a great team of 165 ambassadors that can be deployed. We're very flexible, very nimble, and can go where the needs are. And so we started with a very specific schedule of operationally flushing certain areas 3 times a day. We did that for quite a while, and then at these check-in meetings realized we're holding this area. We don't need to do that as much. So we've scaled back a bit, and then we redeploy to another area as well as our partners. So that's where the coordination comes in, just to make sure that we're there on an operational level every day as needed, but able to pull back or lean in pretty quickly, depending on what the environment is presenting for us.
Yeah, and all that seems really key to the sustainability of it. Were you going to say something, Sabrina? Okay. Now, at the root of all this stuff is public safety. I mean, that's the thing that gives people confidence to go downtown, gives them, take the bus, whatever. And there's a question from one of the audience members. Bobby Nichols says, Third has looked great during the day recently, but I'm still seeing the usual level of drug activity at my bus stop, Third and Pike at night. Is anyone investing in more nighttime service provider presence?
I'll take that
okay,
question.
That's definitely for you.
I want to get to that question. Just to add one thing to what Jennifer said is the coordinated place-based restoration actions that the city departments are doing alongside DSA. We are realistically utilizing the same resources. This is the work that they've always done, and this kind of goes into the public safety question that is coming up. One of the key issues and one of the reasons for why we've already seen a reduction in the need to have all these scheduled restoration is because of the maintenance. There were safety concerns, and there are safety concerns for our city employees to do their necessity work. And so being able to coordinate this with, some police presence was key. I think the thing in terms of this effort, and the mayor has said this, and in terms of public safety, is part of this is enforcement. And we can solve some of the visual disorder, but we also have to get to the enforcement side. And so in terms of resources at night, to that question, we are trying to do an asset mapping of where do we have those resources, not just our public safety resources, but also I mentioned CARE. Their hours of operation are from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. And initially they had 6 crisis responders. We are just done one hiring cohort and doing a second one so that we can expand some of those services and the presence at night. In addition, it's, again, polling what our existing community providers provide and what their outreach hours are, and doing that asset mapping so that we can understand the gaps. We know that one of the gaps is at night and on the weekends. So, what can we do to strategically schedule, all of our resources to be able to have presence and guardianship at night as well. I think that is one of the key things, along with the ability to enforce. I know there's been press in the paper, but both, again, this goes to the collaboration piece. Both Seattle Police Department and the King County Sheriff's Office have been working in tandem to do drug trafficking operations all along the corridor, our transit corridors. And they are, continuing to do that effort. And we are seeing the results of that in terms of a reduction. But, plainly said, we know that issues still exist, and we still have a lot of work to do on that front.
One thing you said, coordinated place-based restoration. For those who don't know what that is, can you define that for us?
Sure. Just in terms of what DAT is doing, it's focusing on some of the visual disorder. So it's coordinating with the city departments to do pressure washing, alley flushing, removing the graffiti, litter abatement, alongside of DSA, our mid ambassadors, our the clean teams. That's what those restoration efforts look like. And alongside of that is, again, SPD, and what we hope to join as well is the coordination of our community service providers. And then at that point, it would be the activation of those vacant spaces, encouraging our businesses to continue to come back to downtown, because we've proven to them that we can hold this space, that we can address the visual disorder and, much of the crime that's been associated with it.
There seems to be a lot of interest from audience questions and just from specific other parts of downtown, other parts of Third Avenue. People want what you guys are talking about. They want more of this. It's exciting. I think it seems to be people are excited about it. I always bring up this question in these conversations we have about DSA and about downtown Seattle, is this notion of perception. Because if you sometimes you look at some of the media, read some of the things online, people haven't been downtown lately, or who only spend their time in the suburbs and don't think about downtown Seattle as a place for entertainment and shopping and a place to live. There's many years of pandemic perception and pre-pandemic perception too. It wasn't like 2020 meant the curtain came down. How do you address the perception issues for someone who isn't going to go down Third Avenue there and see the lights over the streets and smell the fresh sidewalks that have been freshly, pressure washed? How do you get them to understand what's going on and really feel this and understand this is different this time? That's a question for all of you.
Well, we've got to get them downtown. We've got to get them downtown to experience it and tell the story and have people share that, it feels different. It feels better. So there's no one way to do that, right? It's sharing the story. It's producing the events to get people to come downtown. It's more retail. It's more restaurants. It's more arts and culture. It's all of that. I think just for people to experience something different and then be able to share out about it. I've heard a lot of anecdotal comments from residents and ratepayers and business owners that it feels different. And not even when I'm in the space, I will be in a meeting or at a social function, and someone will come up to me and say, what's happening down on Third Avenue, Pike Pine, and around that area? It really just feels different. And I get to tell the story, which is fun. But I think just changing the narrative and the perception is key. So DSA is trying to do that with inviting people down, telling people sharing the good stories, having the events, the activations, the news stories that are nuggets for people to change that narrative, change their perception, get downtown, experience it, and then share it out, share that experience with others.
I agree with you, Jen. Just like if somebody comes downtown and they have a bad experience, that all it took was one bad experience. We need to get them downtown to have a good experience. And it is happening. I've had family members or friends that haven't been downtown in like a year. They're saying the same thing. Something's different. It feels different. This is wonderful. I'm really glad that Paramount and More Theater and Jazz Alley and the arts and culture that gives people a reason to come downtown. The new waterfront opening, the aquarium. So there are things that are happening and moving us in the right direction. And I agree, we need more of that. We need more restaurants. We need more retail. There's pieces that we're starting to get people back downtown for things. And we need to continue that so that they can see for themselves the change.
Natalie, you have anything to add to that?
I think we have to continue to listen to what people's concerns are, and we have to take intentional and thoughtful action. And that's just making small progress and showing that we're still trying is what will continue to give people hope and motivation to come back downtown and have a different experience. And I've been working downtown since the mid 90s. I love this city. I love this downtown, and I know we can do it. I know we can come up with a model that is sustainable and that's scalable to the entire city. And we are starting and planning for that work right now. And it will take these questions that are being generated right now. It will take thoughtful partners. We will have to look at other areas where we have not necessarily looked for answers or brainstorm partners before to be able to do that. But we have a beautiful downtown. We have collaboration right now as we speak. We have so many reasons to be downtown, and public safety will continue to be a challenge, but we are really working to figure out ways in which we can sustain some of the small success, knowing that we still have more work to do, knowing that we still have more learning lessons to do, and making sure that we are ready and nimble and able to pivot to be able to address those challenges that come down. But we're off to a good start, and we know that there's more work to do in all parts of the city.
Yeah, and I want to talk just a little bit about sort of headwinds or things that are sort of standing in the way that might be beyond anyone's control or stuff within people's control. But just to talk logistically about the way this is operated, I think, there's not like a downtown activation team czar at the mayor's office who's sitting in a big control room flipping all the switches. This has been sort of distributed across multiple. I mean, can you give us, kind of peel the curtain back and tell us a little bit about the operational side of this from the city perspective? Because that seems like that's going to need to grow, or we'll need more resources if this really catches on and becomes something that gets beyond just a pilot project.
Yes, if this is important to both the mayor's office and Seattle Police Department. And so, we have rearranged our resources to be able to position a director whose full-time job it is to manage this program, and to work with our external partners, but to work directly in concert with Seattle Police Department. They have also positioned, and we're still working very much in our hiring and our vacancies there with Seattle Police Department, but they have positioned one person to work with our director to help coordinate these efforts and to really work on what the challenges are, coordinate with DSA, coordinate with our external partners. But we're working in concert together. We do have, if this is important to us and we want this to succeed, we have to dedicate the staffing resources to see it through. And so that's what we've done.
And I'll just jump in there, about what's different. That's different. And that's just commending the mayor's office for doing that and taking that step for us, the partner agencies, to know that there is a person who is helping to coordinate and distribute these resources throughout different agencies and different budgets and different leadership. That's different and in a really positive way, to know that it's a priority and there is a person supported by a lot of people and supporting a lot of people. That's saying something, and that's impactful. So we from DSA Mid and all the other partners see that as a very positive, committed step.
All right. What about a timeline for when everything will be perfect? Give me a sort of a pie in the sky, no more problems, all rainbows and anybody?
Summer of 2026, before the first World Cup game.
What a coincidence. Do projects like this always need to have some kind of a goal on the horizon that's big, where the company are coming over and we don't want to be embarrassed when the company come over to see how dirty the house is? Is this part of that, or is that?
I think it's we're going to leverage it for sure, and you get lots of different organizations and people rallying behind something like that. There's opportunity, right? Yeah. There's money. There's motive. So I know in our planning groups we're talking about short-term, medium, and long-term plans, right? Like, obviously we want a certain level of perfection or success in 2 years, but it's going to be beyond that, right? We don't want it to just go back to the status quo after the Men's World Cup. So there are conversations, Metro's talking about brand new bus stops and wayfinding and a legible transit corridor. And obviously we'd like to get a lot of that in place by by 2026. But if we don't, there is a plan in place. There's capital projects. They're looking at 2, 3, 5 years down the road and beyond. Same thing with Sound Transit and the light rail system. And how does that, when it meets Third Avenue, how does that handoff and experience feel for transit riders? Everybody's at the table thinking about that. And that's something that we want to have a long-term plan for that's sustained and doesn't just go away.
Yeah, through all of this energy and discussion and collaboration, we do live in reality where some things you can do some things in a month or 2 months or 6 months, you can't do some things in that time frame, but those conversations are starting, so they'll keep going. The bigger moves, the bigger construction, the more complicated, complex projects may not be done by 26, but they're starting now, the conversation. So we'll just continue that momentum past the Men's World Cup to whatever comes next.
Yeah, it's great when the big public event, whether it's like everyone always points to the World's Fair, or maybe not everyone, but lots of people point to the World's Fair, or the Space Needle thinking of, sure, it was a great 6-month carnival for people who came from around the world, but it also created this incredible civic campus. And I could go on about this for hours, but it created this civic campus that's been serving us now for more than 62 years. And that's the brilliance of that using that, everyone coming to town as a catalyst to get everyone working together. So if that can be sustained, or if we can find other things to pepper our calendar for the next 5, 10, 100 years to keep always having a reason to reinvent and work together on stuff, I think that's brilliant. One couple of logistic questions. So Sabrina, if people are excited about this for their block and they want to get in touch with somebody, who do they reach out to find out more about how they get their block signed up for this?
Well, feel free to reach out to me and I can pass you along. I know, so I've been working with Joel Miller at SDOT, but they're coming up with a email that would go to a team, on their team, because this sort of lives under, one of the czars of the Mayor's Downtown Activation Plan is Liz and Joel, and they're under SDOT. So they are coming up with an email that folks can reach out to. But for now, feel free to email me, svillanueva@placeproperties.com, and I can get the conversation started.
Okay, terrific. Let's see. In talking about the sustainability or the headwinds, this is a great question from the audience. It's from Edson Galladay. We're considering an office to residential conversion on 3rd, and investors keep asking what happens if there's a change in mayor or city council and we go backward. How do we establish lasting change? How do we make this part of it? This is my words now. How do we make this a cultural shift beyond, not being able to do stuff like this, being able to do it now and sustain it and have it grow in the future? That's in terms of the political environment. But that's a great question. What's the magic wand? Okay, is there an answer to that question? How do we make this politics proof going forward?
I'll try and tackle that question because it's a good question. And I think one thing to think about is, I think we're all invested in building things that will hopefully outlive us. And we've done that with many different types of programs. I think in my experience, working with, drug court or some of our other alternative programs, they're still in existence and they're still working. I think with this downtown activation team pilot that we plan to, again, look at our lessons learned, make sure that we have a handle on any sort of displacement, make sure that we are measuring outcomes. We talked about what's the goal, when will this be perfect? Is that vacancies? Is that crime reduction? Is that reduced litter? Is that reduced, obviously public drug use? I think how we build this is to continue on. And if something is working, I would think that people would want to continue this, because the challenges that we have currently have been challenges that we've had previously with other administrations. So I would say, I think all of us on this call and all of the people behind the scenes are invested in building something that goes beyond, all of us and lives on because it's working and is able to really address those problems ongoing, or be able to pivot to address, because we can only sometimes imagine what some of our new challenges will be. So I think that's my commitment. And I hope I can speak for Sabrina and Jennifer in saying that we are really trying to build something that will kind of sustain beyond just us.
Maybe this is a naive question, but is anyone opposed to this? Is anyone sort of like saying, no, take those lights down, damn it? Is that is that a dumb question?
As far as I know, SDOT reported one complaint only, which is, I guess, unheard of when any city agency does a project downtown, and it was a resident on the 15th floor of some building that said that it was so bright they couldn't sleep, and it was either blackout blinds or whatever, which I think was ridiculous. But
sorry, not minimizing that. Okay.
No. So yeah, the fact that it was one complaint, it speaks volumes. Literally everybody that they talked to, and it's not just folks that were part of the project, but other stakeholders or residents or people that just commute down 3rd, it's all been positive feedback.
One question about 3rd Avenue as a transit spine, and obviously front door for people coming in on mass transit. has that ever, this is a question from an audience member, has there ever been an assessment of what a traffic corridor contributes to the unhealthy atmosphere from a visual and merchant viewpoint? Did the Third Avenue plan address that?
I think that's code for, are the buses the problem? So that's something that we did look at and address, and we had to agree the buses are not going to go away. So how do we live in harmony, adding greenery, slowing down the bus speeds, doing things that, I mean, if you look at any major successful urban city, they share the pedestrian space with their transit system. And so that's what we're trying to do. And there are tweaks. I know Metro is looking at, maybe we'll move some of the buses, maybe we'll slow down speeds. I mean, there are things that are being evaluated from a traffic perspective and the impact it has. But I mean, to be fair, look at Fifth Avenue. I would say that the retail's not any better there, and it doesn't have as many buses. So it's always a mixed bag of what is the issue, but instead of like finger pointing, we're just trying to look at it holistically and what can we do to improve all the elements on this major transit corridor.
And early in the morning, when all the buses are coming down there under the spark block, it actually looks pretty cool. It looks almost like a bus parade. It was kind of like the lighting kind of, anyway, and I'm not being facetious. It kind of gave it sort of like it made it seem sort of festive. I don't know. I want to talk a little bit about headwinds or sort of elephants in the room, stuff we're not addressing. I don't think we can ever talk too much about public safety or about other challenges that face downtown over the last 5 years in particular, but before that as well. But are there other things? I mean, what are the headwinds? What are other than money? All right, that's probably obvious, right? Funding in a tough year for the city budget where there's cuts in popular places and things are going away, but it's a balanced budget. What other headwinds are we not talking about, or what other things that are out there that stand in the way of progress on something like this? I mean, whether it's the retail occupancy, whether it's online shopping, whether it's inflation, other political factors beyond our control. Just give me kind of a landscape of what the hurdles are. And that's for all of you, that question.
Well, I think one of them, there's many, and you just named a few. And I think we have to just kind of work on all of them at the same time. There's no magic. One thing is going to fix everything, but this is not my words, of course, but process getting in the way of progress. And I think we're seeing some of this with blanket permitting and city agencies and private as well, getting together and saying, how do we make this easier? How do we simplify? How do we become more flexible, more nimble, more pilot type projects or processes? So we're seeing that. So it is a bit of a headwind, but we're making progress on it. Because I think that is sometimes a hard stop for people who want to put up lights or want to open a retail shop or want to make a little bit of, change in the landscaping. There's a lot of red tape in Seattle. We all know it. There's a lot of red tape, a lot of process. So breaking down some of those barriers, making things simpler, kit of parts, menus, menu options, and not menus, food menus, but menus of options of what to do, I think is a headwind that is there, but we're tackling it. That's just one of many. I'll let others chime in.
Sabrina or Natalie?
I would say, sort of speaking for the small businesses, and I have a lot of small businesses in our properties, women-owned, minority-owned, and it's a struggle for small businesses with like retail theft or property damage, things that they're on the hook for. Sometimes they can't afford to staff 2 people at a counter, but they don't feel safe having just one person there. So it's sort of a chicken and an egg. And then the property owners, a lot of buildings have vacancy challenges, right? So it's going in a positive direction and it's getting better. But I think that the public safety element is really important to help create an environment that small retailers can be successful in. And we need more of that, right? That street level retail. And I appreciate the city's programs like Restored Seattle. And I know there's lots of property owners that are doing what they can to work with groups to just activate the space and get people and folks in there. But I feel like that is a real challenge for some businesses.
Natalie?
Well, I think Sabrina handed it off to me in terms of some of our continued public safety challenges.
Yeah.
Obviously, our applications for Seattle Police Department are way up, and that makes me very hopeful. But it is still a challenge because it does take time to hire and train. We have, the best police department in the country, as far as I'm concerned, and so that takes time. I think also building up our alternative response and the ways in which they can respond also takes time to build up. And then holistically, because we can't forget that, we are still a city of people and all of our people matter community wise. Holistically, it's access to the right resources, access to places for people to go, and the immediacy of that. And so, again, we have been building up and are continuing to build up the resources to, take people and need. And I think, again, just, while we started again with a reduction in an area of the city that has always been very high in terms of our violent crime and drug use, again, the continued influx of drugs, specifically fentanyl and firearms in our community is a huge challenge. And, luckily we are working with our partners in King County and the U.S. Attorney and the City Attorney's Office to try and continually address that. But those are some of our challenges. And I think, at least with this downtown activation team pilot, it's helpful and provides a lot of hope and energy to move forward to see some really good success, at least for the last couple months. And that's what we're really aiming for to kind of push through some of the challenges that we know we still have.
I think the transparency and the clear-eyed approach is welcomed by everybody in the sense of not just pretending this is some just like, get a Band-Aid, fix something instantly. But I think there's a lot of really important things to be hopeful about. Just a minute or two left here. I want to ask, just give you just a moment to tell me one thing, the thing you're looking most forward to in downtown Seattle in 2025. Let's start with you, Sabrina.
I am most looking forward to seeing the next node. I didn't bring up the nodes of focus, which are the high on 3rd Avenue, high dense areas of metro stops, light rail, people. So the next node that we're focusing on is the Benaroya Hall or Symphony Station block. So in 2025, I look forward to a ribbon cutting there with lights and new bus stops and a beautiful transition from the light rail station up to 3rd Avenue. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Right on. What about you, Natalie?
Oh man, in 2025, it looks very similar today. I look forward to riding the bus along 3rd Avenue, getting to work, and being able to serve this great city in public safety. It's a challenging but really rewarding job, and if I can make any progress, it makes me feel great. And that's what I'm looking most forward to in 2025 is the ability to continue to serve Mayor Harrell, this great city. And I'm a Seattle resident, and I have lived here most, if not all, my life. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Right on. What about you, Jen?
I'm looking forward to the waterfront being done and open and no more construction, and how that, and it already has, but how that will impact the entire downtown. It's not just the waterfront, it's the corridors, east-west connectors, all coming up to 3rd Avenue, to Westlake Park, to Bell Street, to Freeway Park, all the spaces, and really connect. So once that's open and finished, I think it's going to be a pivotal moment for downtown and a time that we should certainly leverage and say, come to the waterfront and come to the entire downtown. It's all one big space.
Thank you both. I want to thank all our panelists, Jen Casillas from DSA, Sabrina Villanueva from Kleiss Properties, and Natalie Walton-Anderson from the Mayor's Office. I want to thank you all for joining us today on DSA Virtual Access. Some really terrific audience questions. Thanks as always to the fabulous DSA staff. Please watch your inbox for info about the next installment of DSA Virtual Access in November, and please vote on or before November 5th. I'm not talking about M&Ms versus Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. And apologies to the guy on the 15th floor for the bright lights. Sorry. And until then, I'm Feliks Banel on behalf of DSA. Thanks again for joining us this morning, and we will see you downtown.
Bye.